Candace Owens has brought receipts in regards to Charlie Kirk. That's what we're going to be addressing today. But more than just that, we're going to be addressing simply the narrative surrounding Charlie Kirk, his assassination, who done it. There are a ton of missing pieces. It's not just that a little bit of it seems fishy, but pretty much all of it seems fishy. Now, as a disclaimer, I will say this: it does absolutely matter who actually pulled the trigger. It matters on multiple accounts. Number one, it matters in the sight of God. Number two, it matters in the sense of doing our best here temporally on earth to model justice as God would see fit, right? We don't want to condemn someone who's innocent, and we also don't want someone who's guilty to get away. So it matters who killed Charlie Kirk. But there's a lot of other things that matter too. If it doesn't end up being Tyler Robinson, who has yet, as of now, to actually confess to the crime, if it doesn't end up being Tyler Robinson, who was a gay man, who had a boyfriend who was transitioning into a gay furry, guess what? You can still say transgenderism is absolutely terrible. And we have enough school shootings in Christian and Catholic schools by transgenders to label transgender ideology and Antifa and all the other far left-wing organizations, associations as terrorist groups to kingdom come. And we can crack down on them, right? So we're not going to try to get off the rails and say, hey, we've got the left against the ropes. And then you guys, the autists, come in and start cooking and getting weird, and we lose a macro moment to simply push back on the Democrats and the leftists, LMNOP, all that kind of stuff. We want to do that. But in God's providence, we have sufficient evidence. We have more than sufficient evidence to condemn the left, to condemn Democrats, to condemn all forms of sexual perversion till the end of time, whether Tyler Robinson was Charlie Kirk's killer or not. On the flip side, we are not going, just again, another disclaimer, we are not going to assert today that Bibi Netanyahu himself personally was 400 yards away on top of a tower and that he pulled the trigger and killed Charlie Kirk. All right, that is not our position. But it does matter who literally pulled the trigger. But it matters in many ways more who is ultimately behind this tragedy, who is pulling not the trigger, but the strings. It's important for us to realize that, yes, Israel is a problem in terms of geopolitics. Our relationship with America, with Israel, claiming that they're our greatest ally, that's a problem. But here's the reality. If we cut Israel off tomorrow, right, and it would still be far too late. We should have done that yesterday. If we, America, cut Israel off as a political ally tomorrow, and we stopped giving them a dime of our taxes and all those kinds of things, the way that translates down to you and I as individual citizens of the United States of America is maybe we save $100 annually in our personal taxes. It's not just the Israeli government. It's not just Bibi Netanyahu. He has his own wars that he's fighting. Right? I really don't think that he was personally involved. He's right now, well, they're trying to try him for war crimes in Gaza, which I think he's guilty. I think that he needs to be tried. He needs to be unseated. His own people in Israel are protesting. There were 30,000 Israelis protesting against their own prime minister. There's plenty of things going on in terms of Israel's leadership, Israel's government, or even Israel as the nation state. But what you and I have to realize, and I'll say it as carefully as possible, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, I'm not trying to merely be an edgelord, it is important, imperative that we understand this concept. What we are struggling with right now, what we're undergoing, is a civilizational war. It is a spiritual, cultural, and political war, a battle for civilization. And that war is religious. It is Christ versus everything else, Judaism, Islam, atheism, all these other things. It's a war for Christ, a religious war, and there is also a racial component. I'm not trying to make it that. It is that. It's inescapable. And what I mean by that is you can't just say, oh, I've seen some of the memes where they say, oh, I've figured it out. It's the globalist, right? No. I'm more enlightened. It's the Marxists. No, I'm even more enlightened. It's the Bolsheviks. Oh, no, it's Israeli government. No, it's the nation state of Israel. And then the highest tier, at a certain point, you have to just sit there and say, No, it's kind of Jews. Sam Altman, that's not Israel. It's a Jewish billionaire in America who is actively, right? That guy is not just costing you $100 annually in your taxes as an American citizen. That guy is actively making decisions that are corrupting your way of life and seeking to devour your children, right? What's his name with Oracle?
Larry Ellison.
Larry Ellison, right? It's Mark Zuckerberg. It's these kinds of individuals who are not actually Israel's government. They might have some kind of deal under the table. Who knows? I'm not going to speculate in that regard. But the problem is it's not just Bibi Netanyahu. It's not just the Israeli government or Israeli intelligence or the nation state of Israel. There are Jews here in America who are powerful, who are billionaires. They were putting pressure on Charlie Kirk. This is undebatable at this point. Candace Owens has now dropped the receipts. And to think that this has nothing to do with Charlie's killing, I think is naive. I think it's naive. That's what we're going to flesh out in our episode today. Zeb is joining us as a special guest. He's been doing a lot of work in ballistics and all these different things on this topic of Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's the show for today. Tune in now. All right, here we are. I want to go ahead and just dive right in. Let's go ahead and show the screenshot. Let's start with that. Here's the screenshot. This is from Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk is on here. I guess it looks like a signal thread or something like that. Charlie Kirk says, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker Carlson. Speaking at one of their TPUSA events, I'm thinking of inviting Candace just to tick them off. And then Charlie Kirk said, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this. And then he says, it's leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause.
I want to get Zeb's thoughts, but you guys have to remember, among younger individuals, there are a lot of people that are not big fans of Israel, not pro-Israel cause. The single biggest name, again, among younger people, they're reaching a younger demographic. The single biggest name prior to his death was Charlie Kirk.
That's right.
And here's him saying,
and he was one of the only young guys reaching a younger audience,
biggest and potentially only,
was pro-Israel.
Yep.
Pretty much everybody else who has an audience of under 45 is very much, whether they're left or right, is anti-Israel. So Charlie was like one of the last influencers, major influencers with young people that was pro-Israel. And real quick, I want to let you talk, but I definitely want to invite Zeb, but real quick, just to collaborate this, just to get it out right here in the open from the beginning of the episode, and then we can break it down. Let's just collaborate this because Candace dropped this piece. People are saying, it's faked, it's photoshopped, whatever. This isn't real. But then TPUSA themselves, they came out and validated it. Can we play the quick clip?
But I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic. And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friends' trust in that way. But I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect. And in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned. So I shared it with a few people. Don't know where it went from there, apparently, but here we are. So one of the reasons, Blake, that I'm glad to have this now public, it was not mine to share publicly, but one of the criticisms we've received is that we don't care, we're not investigating every lead, we're not looking under every stone, and that somehow we're just sweeping things under the rug. And when I say that we want justice for Charlie more than anybody else, I really mean it. And no stone unturned. I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in on that part alone, but I have more to say.
Yeah, so it has been so frustrating to have people blow up about this.
Yeah.
And I've certainly stated publicly, the reason I haven't weighed in on things is I am an eyewitness to events, and they've said, don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
That's 1,000.
There you go. All right. We've got a special guest. Let's bring him on. Zeb, what do you think?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. What do I think? I don't know what to think, really. I know that we've been lied to, and that's kind of how I've started all of this off with, is the government is definitely lying to us on some extent, and most likely TPUSA is too at this point. And so I just want to reiterate the point that you made really early on, is that it doesn't matter who actually pulled the trigger. In the big scheme, right? In the smaller scheme of Charlie Kirk, it definitely does, and who was behind it does matter. But in this aspect of winning, it definitely doesn't matter who pulled the trigger, because at the end of the day, transgenderism, that entire movement, the entire LGBTQ movement is un-American. I mean, I would like to go back to the Cold War and the Red Scare, Second Red Scare with McCarthy, and bring about a House Un-American Committee, right? We need to start labeling people un-American as terrorists, as what they are, enemies of America. And so I'll file them under that. But yeah, what do I think? We're trying to work it out. We're trying to work with what little evidence that we've been given from TPUSA, from the federal government, from everyone, and they've already staked their position, which I think was a major issue when they were claiming that 30-06 went through Charlie Kirk's neck. I mean, who believes that, really?
Well, it did not go through. It got stuck in his neck, and that's what's been so difficult about this whole thing. Because even I remember when that piece was dropped on X. And the way that the guy dropped it, he was like, I talked to the coroner, or whatever. And he said that it's a miracle that the muscles in Charlie Kirk's neck were so thick and so strong that that this 36 bullet stopped midway in his neck. And so even the last moment of Charlie's life, he was saving other people, because that bullet would have gone through him, and there was a host of people behind him. And so honestly, like, how do you, when a guy's body, because this was early on, when a guy's body is still warm and his wife is on national television in tears, right, forgiving the killer, how do you come out and politely say, bull crap? No. Nope. So none of us want to be disrespectful to Charlie. We all appreciate Charlie. I want to say that from the outset. We all I would be to Charlie's right. And so I would disagree with him on a few things, but I saw his trajectory. I saw his effectiveness. That was the biggest thing. He was effective. There's plenty of guys to his right, but sometimes guys who are further to the right, all they do is convince people to be on the left, by scaring them away. Charlie was effective. He was changing hearts, changing minds, and he wasn't just a conservative political commentator. He was a Christian, and he preached Christ, and he preached the gospel. And so none of us want to come out and disparage him, especially right away. All we really said about it was Charlie has an incredible legacy. He was a Christian martyr. And I think those are the right things to say at the time. But now it's been a little bit. I know it's still fresh. I know it's still recent, but it's been long enough. At least the man has been buried. They've been able to honor him with a memorial and all these kinds of things. And you don't want to give too much time, because you could give too much time in the vein of respect, but then you lose the edge of interest. And then whoever actually committed this atrocity gets away, because the public loses interest. And so I look at that, and not trying to disparage Charlie at all, but I think I can say Charlie was a mountain of a man and did incredible things for Jesus Christ. And I also don't think that he was Superman, literally Superman, and that his neck was saving lives behind him by stopping a 30.
I would love to have Zeb expand on this, because if they're lying here, if it's kind of one of those things like you catch someone dead to right in a lie, everything else comes into question. That's right. Zeb, break it down like the listener, like you're a housewife. You don't know the first thing. Guns, that there's numbers that come with it. When you say, hey, his neck stopped a 30-06 bullet, how kind of extreme is that claim?
I mean, I just go straight to thinking he's Wolverine, right? I mean, we got metal adamantium bones over here. It's just not going to happen, right? It'll go clean through a deer, which is about a foot and a half of flesh, and the neck is a soft tissue. And even if you want to call it the vertebrae stopped, you're looking at, I mean, that's soft brittle bone by itself. And then even then, if you want to say that it turned inside of him, I mean, a 30-06 round moving at, I don't know, probably 2,500 feet per second, which is extremely fast, isn't going to decide to take a 90-degree turn downward. It just doesn't happen. The blowout would be catastrophic from the
all that
back, and you
energy
wouldn't be
has
able
to
hire
go
it.
somewhere is the idea.
Well, that's
so
all
even if
ballistics
that
is.
did happen, unfortunately, I don't want to be graphic, but the scene would look a lot different. If there was that much energy in that projectile from a Mauser 30-06, that energy would have, just the assassination would not have looked the same. Just for my credentials, like I was in the military, shot a number of these guns. I remember being on the range, actually, my uncle was shooting a 30-06. We all had our handguns, and he shot it without telling people to put on their headphones. I remember it was my cousin's grandfather was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You got to let people know before you shoot that thing. That thing is a cannon. So to your point, that energy is going somewhere. You're telling us it just went in and said, all right, that's all, folks. That's it for the evening. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah, it's laughable. That's exactly what it is, and that's all ballistics is trying to make sense of energy transfer, energy displacement, and so that's what I've been trying to do. I don't know how much further we can get without additional footage. Obviously, TPS USA has footage, UVU has footage. The FBI is sitting on all of that. We're not going to get any of it until trial. Will we get a trial? Who knows? Probably not. There's going to be another JFK. We'll be sitting on it for 60 years. Maybe my grandkids might get some answers. But to that point, that I don't think we're going to get much more ballistics or video evidence of what actually happened there. I think the attention should turn to Joel's point is that maybe we should look at a little bit more of who is actually behind it. And that's kind of where I want to transition to. I think enough time has passed. I mean, we're coming up on a month and 2 days. And so I think enough time has passed that respect has kind of played itself out. The mourning for some of us has played itself out. You know, we're looking at 7 days. I would for that aspect, but the respect has kind of played itself out. So now I think the flashlight should be turned on, not just the ballistics, not just the FBI coming out and saying whatever they feel like saying. Obviously, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi across the board, but between all of the Epstein files are on my desk, 9/11 files, MLK, JFK files, and now Charlie Kirk. It's like the incompetence at the top is astounding. But,
I remember him
beyond
telling Sean Ryan, he's like, day one FBI, we're turning the J. Edgar Hoover building into a museum for the deep state. It's kind of laughable. Like, do you understand what goes into this job? It literally seems like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, to a degree, they don't. He's getting dinner. He hears they capture someone. Oh, we got him. He tweets out. Oh, we don't actually.
It's a podcaster occupied government, and I say this all the time. And that if we want a podcaster occupied government, I mean, give me a job, man. We can actually get something done. But because I mean, I think these people were scared of the deep state, obviously, to some extent. Now, to what extent? Maybe there's a question there, I can't imagine that it's just pure incompetence. You can't be that incompetent. But kind of to that point is that we go from the photo shoot to phase one or they're on my desk to the photo shoot, and there's nothing in the actual binders that are pushed out. I mean, this is exactly what you're seeing with Charlie Kirk. They're coming out and saying Tyler Robinson shot from the roof. I don't think there's no evidence of Tyler Robinson even being on campus. The runner is way too fast to be where he is if he actually shot that round from that video on the roof. Just inconsistencies like that we're not going to get answers until we get the CCTV
footage. Didn't they claim he broke down
footage.
the rifle as well? And this is an old rifle that is not just press a pin like an AR-15 and you can disassemble the thing in 15 seconds. They're like, he disassembled the rifle, he made it all across this way, and none of those pieces seem to fit.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline is absolutely insane. Not only do we have Wolverine on the scene, we have Flash too. So, I mean, we're building a full-fledged superhero Marvel movie or whatever, and it's insane. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with it without getting additional evidence. And like you said, on like the guy on the Charlie Kirk show, I can't remember his name, the bald one. He
Blake
said
had a leak.
he's a witness, and he was told by the FBI that he can't push anything. So now you have witnesses that can't say anything. On top of, we're not getting additional footage. On top of, everything's just shut down across the board, and nobody trusts the federal government. Nobody trusts the FBI, and they want to claim transparency. I understand that we have to get to trial. I understand that, or do we? But at some point you have to kind of restore something at the federal government, unless the goal itself is to destroy it.
Yeah. This seems like one of the consequences. You mentioned podcaster occupied government. When information is decentralized, for better or for worse, Candace Owens has a platform, and she's able to bring information that people send to her. Obviously, she's someone that if someone had information or something pertinent or something they could leak, they would send it to her. But in a time like ours where everyone has a platform, everyone has a podcast, it's very hard to maintain trust when you're not being transparent, because a number of different narratives can circle around. There's an old saying, the lie gets halfway across the world before the truth even gets its boots on. And so I'm not saying Candace Owens is lying. She said a number of different things. But the point is, without the transparency from the people that are literally charged with this, that should have all the information, that should have the evidence, this is what's going to happen. Well, I think it was so-and-so, and I think it was this, and I think maybe it was the microphone on his lapel, and it disintegrates trust across the board. Because then you say, I can't trust this organization. I can't trust my government. There's been some disappointments there in the last 9 months. I can't trust the FBI. I could maybe trust her. I could trust him. You just have, it's a mess. And then you have a bunch of people, and they're lost. I don't know who to believe. I have this guy who I loved. I have this guy who helped my parents turn conservative. I have this guy who's fighting for Jesus. And I literally, I have no idea what's happening. And I can imagine something happens to me. And would my death, or if someone attacked me or something happened to me, would it be handled with this same level of professionalism? Because that doesn't give me a lot of confidence. And then you basically have anarchy. Everyone's doing as they please because there's no real accountability.
Yep. Zeb, I've got somebody in the chat that said, Zeb, go into the theory of Hollywood squib. Can you explain that? I'm just fascinated. I have no idea what that is, but
yeah. So the squib theory, I don't think it can be faked. We see immediate reaction, not a typical reaction time. We have a lot of anomalies that if you were trying to go squib theory, you wouldn't be able to feel. Squib theory basically means that they have a blood packet in some form. Maybe it's through a tube, maybe it's the packet itself, and then it essentially explodes or squirts out, typically hidden beneath a shirt. Sometimes they can hide it under the skin. They can put it under their skin and maybe put makeup on it, a little bit of practical effects on top of it, and try to blend it in. The squib theory doesn't hold up, especially given the footage from the side where we can see actual movement in the rear of the occipital bone on the back of the head, which I claim is entry, and then exit out of the neck. I just don't think squib theory holds up, right? So when we're going through this, we're trying to explain all of the anomalies or everything that we see, and whatever does that the best, I'm trying to make sense of this, whatever does that the best is typically what we're going to run with. And so that's what I've been trying to do from the very beginning. Kind of updating my position a little bit is that I think there are two shots. I think there might be a little bit of something to Jason with crowdsources theory. I need to flush that out a little bit more before I push it. But essentially, I think my shot had to go through the tent, right? You can see tent pieces on some of the fly up right after the shot, right after it passes. You can see a little black thing fall down from the top of the tent where it probably hit. And I just don't think you can make sense of it with a single round. And so from there, we have to say, okay, maybe there was another shooter. Maybe if we're running some type of higher end hit situation, then we have two shooters, which would be like a triangulation, which is a tactic that is used for sniping or really assassinations in general, where you have multiple shooters at different angles.
For our listener, there was a couple, this was probably about a week and a half ago. There was some thought around the microphone that was actually on his lapel. And so the possibility, I think of Israel and I think of Mossad with pagers, how they actually put explosives into pagers and carried out, really, we just got to be honest, a pretty incredible operation. I believe it was in Lebanon, killed dozens, crippled more than a couple hundred individuals, again, by infiltrating the supply chain, getting in there, placing explosives in the pagers, all one moment there ago. So I've seen circulated, and you probably have the info to debunk. What about the idea that the actual lapel on his neck that it discharged, it shot up into the neck. That was what actually carried it out. The gunshot was kind of cover for what really occurred there. What do you think of that theory?
Yeah, I think the footage that they're using for that, I think there's one frame in there that has been manipulated. We don't have original. We don't even have a full video without it being heavily edited. And so I think there's a frame in there that is manipulated. That video came out 2 weeks after there was no evidence of that video. I guess it was, but it was blurred, and what we see is an unblurred version, and I think they manipulated a single frame in there. Even beyond that, in the video that they claim that the mic blew up, you can see the mic go the direction of supposed explosion. And so when we say the ballistics, we're looking at energy dispersion or transfer. If the shot is going one way, you would expect a recoil from the other direction, and so that's just not what you see with that happening. You see the movement of the mic towards his neck, where it should go away from and then shoot whatever is moving. They claim the magnet is what pierced him. It would have to go to the other side of the neck, like it would have to go across the neck. On top of the magnet is still there in the same video. It's still attached. The mic is still attached to his shirt after the fact. So I mean, any kind of explosion would definitely separate that. I think the mic theory is probably the least. Like, I mean, squib theory is pretty bad too, but I think mic theory is pretty bad. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense of anything, and that adds more inconsistencies. But to the point, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense.
And that's everything that we're trying to do here. So no one is here. We're saying so-and-so for sure did it. It was for sure the second shooter. You know the most, Zeb. And what you're doing, and you're being careful, is saying, hey, what story, what series of events makes the most sense out of all of these different factors? Makes sense of the man that's running on the roof, makes sense of the weapon, makes sense of the projectile and the energy and all of that. That's what we're trying to do here.
The Jewish boomer who, the moment he saw someone on the right was assassinated, he instinctively, right? And people are like, oh, he was in on it. I don't think he was. I don't think he needed to sit in the back room. I don't think he needed a meeting. I don't think he needed, action steps or a plan or anything like that. I think literally just as a Jewish boomer, he sees someone on the right who's a Christ worshiper get shot dead in front of his wife and children, and he instinctively thinks, I should give the remaining years of my life with child porn on my phone in my pocket. I should sacrifice the rest of my life to make sure that whoever killed Charlie Kirk has a chance at getting away. That, I mean, like, even that is just...
You're literally not exaggerating.
No.
He called out, it was me, I'm the shooter. Distracting
instinctively.
the police.
A Jewish elderly man, they then found his phone in his pocket. He's like, oh, snap, I forgot that I have child pornography, on my phone, and then gets charges for that. Sometimes you just can't... It's kind of like the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. It's like he shot 3 Democrats. Oh, and they're all child predators.
Yeah.
What are the odds? Well, apparently 100%. 100%. If you fire into a crowd of liberals, you've got about 100% chance of hitting exclusively child predators, right? If you've got a random Jewish man trying to make a distraction for an assassin, for someone on the right, a Christian, to get away, what are the chances that he's got child porn on his phone? Well, apparently 100%. You can't even write this stuff. It's like sometimes it's like, like even if I'm not, but even if I was trying to be anti-Semitic, like all I'd have to do is just read the news.
You could be trying to write it, and you'd be writing, you'd be like, I can't put this in there. This is too on the nose. Right. This is just, no one would believe it.
Nobody would believe it.
This is dime store.
You almost you would have
dime store novelization.
You have to take the reality and soften it a little bit to even make it believable. All right, let's go to our first commercial break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more theories. And we'll also, let's now, so we've talked about the shooter. We'll try to transition a little bit and talk about some of the ramifications and why it really does matter to get to the bottom of this. And, Charlie Kirk and some of the ways that he was pivoting in regards to Israel, at least in regards to Netanyahu and the war with Israel and Iran. There definitely was, I think, a provable shift in his rhetoric on that. And him, again, like we said earlier, in many ways being almost the exclusive, like last man standing in terms of right-wing influencers reaching young people under the age of 40 in a pro-Israel way. Charlie Kirk was, in many ways, he was a dying breed. He's a 31-year-old man, and yet already, in a sense, a dinosaur. He really was. He was holding on to love for Israel for dear life. And as much as he loved Israel, and Charlie loved him some Israel, as much as he loved Israel, even Charlie was it seems, finding it difficult there towards the end. And it seems like a lot of people don't want that to be talked about. They don't want that to come out. And I understand that some of the things that Candace has said, it's like, oh, like, I don't know about that. But I actually think in the providence of God that it's quite helpful. I think it's helpful for her to expose as much as she has. Personally, I wish she wasn't waiting. I wish she would just drop it. I mean, I think that's the biggest question at this point. Earlier, if you had asked everybody 48 hours ago, they would have said, I don't believe Candace, she's full of it. Now people are like, oh, well, she kind of nailed it. But then the pushback now is kind of like, well, why'd she wait? And honestly, we could talk about that a little bit because there are some legitimate reasons for why she would wait. Even, legality and things like that, or just honoring other people and having their permission. So we could talk a little bit about that. But my point in bringing up Candace is to say, I hope, whether you love her, like her, hate her, I do hope that she reveals more receipts. Because I do think that it's important that it becomes so proven that it would be inescapable for everyone, regardless where they land on the issue of Israel, for them to see, okay, at least in some measure, Charlie really was changing. And does that have anything to do? Does that have anything to do with his assassination? What does that look like? Who would stand to gain for this? Those are some of the questions I think we need to delve into in our next segment after this commercial break. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. Yet your retirement dollars keep shrinking daily as Washington prints money out of thin air. Genesis Gold Group aligns financial guidance with godly principles when others serve only profit. Their faith-centered approach to Gold IRAs stands apart in an industry that has forgotten what true stewardship actually means. Why gamble your family's future on Wall Street's paper promises? Your 401k and IRA deserve better protection. Genesis Gold Group transforms your vulnerable retirement accounts into physical gold, something real, something tangible, something that God created with inherent value. Their faith-driven experts walk you through every step, helping you shield your life's work from the financial storms up ahead. No high-pressure tactics, no hidden fees, just guidance rooted in timeless principles of sound stewardship. So the decision is simple. Watch your retirement evaporate through inflation or secure it in God's precious metal. Take action now. Go and visit rightresponseBibleGold.com. You can visit today for your free book, The Bible and Gold, and join the thousands of believers who sleep soundly knowing their future is anchored in something unshakable. Again, that's rightresponseBibleGold.com, safeguarding your legacy with God's timeless treasure. When it comes to your financial future, are you planning forward or backwards from your desired results? What type of financial culture do you want to create for your family and for your children's children? We are not called to be wise as doves. Therefore, simpleton planning simply won't cut it. Joe Garrissey helps families develop and implement a long-term culture of excellent financial management. He starts with your goals, your tithing plan, your retirement, and the legacy that you want to build for your generations. And then he works backwards to build a real actionable plan to get your family on track. Now, many of my personal friends have benefited from the financial wisdom of Joe Garrissey that he shared for their specific situations. Do you want to work with someone who strives for alpha with your investing, hates taxes, and brokers insurance? Start planning smart. Call Joe Garrissey at 615-767-2555. Again, that's 615-767-2555. Or you can find him by going to backwardsplanningsfinancial.nm.com. Again, that's backwardsplanningsfinancial.in as in Nancy, m as in ministries.com.
Well, I want to do my best to represent Charlie in his words. I think that's fair. If, heaven forbid, I was to pass away, I would hope people would say, well, what did he say and what was he trying to communicate? And so there's a famous letter, and as best we can tell, it's authentic. It may possibly not be, but as far as we know, it's authentic. And it kind of shows his trajectory. So we have the text from Charlie that we showed. Those were recent. It appeared recently. He was continuing to sour. But during the summer, it appears that he wrote a letter to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And the letter itself is decently long. I don't have time to read the whole thing here on air. He had a number of recommendations. And he just came out and he said, as we've said of him, and it's true, he said, hey, I'm very pro-Israel. I go to all these college campuses. But he was frustrated that he said, as I'm on campus, as I'm defending Israel for this and that and the other, fielding a lot of questions on it, I'm struggling because Israel is losing the narrative battle. We talked a little bit about this last week with Israel buying TikTok. Israel recognizes, hey, there's a narrative battle that we're losing as far as young people, as far as where they're getting information. They're just getting them from a lot of anti-Israeli sources. And I have here a quote from Charlie to Netanyahu, and you can see some of the frustration that's coming out. So he's traveling across the U.S. I mean, the man's away from his family 200 days a year, however much it is. He's traveling across the U.S. He's speaking every campus tour. He's literally having to debate people again and again. Well, what about Israel this? What about Judaism this? And he says, listen here, he says, I strongly suggest, again, this is from Charlie Kirk in a letter to Benjamin Netanyahu, I strongly suggest Israel not always depend on subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. Mr. Prime Minister, I urge you to revamp your information warfare strategy from top to bottom. Sometimes the impression is given that Israel thinks everyone hates them, so I care about winning over hearts and minds. If there's any truth to this impression, I urge you to consider that social media and podcasts is where you fight for the hearts and minds of the younger generation. Obviously, all this negative Israel propaganda on social media easily translates into pro-Hamas, free Palestine sentiment on many college campuses. And so you can see some of the trajectory that Charlie was undergoing. Again, in the text, he's saying, listen, I lost a $2 million donor, so someone who's giving, it seems like annually, $2 million a year to Turning Point USA, because he had on one of the most popular podcasters in the United States, Tucker Carlson, to speak at his event. And he's become frustrated and fed up with it. And so when people continue to go a step farther and say, okay, so he was souring on him, and then would that potentially give motive? Again, we're not insinuating it. We're not staking our flag in the ground. That's our claim. But you can see, no, that actually makes sense. And again, this is the guy that is theoretically probably the only under 40 defender of Israel that really was out there kind of doing that activist work. Zeb, thoughts on this letter, additional context that I might be missing?
Yeah, I mean, at the core, I think the letter is basically asking someone to change their nature. And it's going to take a generation or 4 or 5 to do that, at least for a people. But even beyond that, I mean, if we're looking at timeline of Charlie Kirk's transition into questioning Israel, I did a video even prior to the ballistics that I thought was actually better than the ballistics. And I gave a timeline, and I can run through that timeline real quick and add a little bit to that since we've thought about this now. Right, in 2019, we had the Groyper Wars, the original Groyper Wars, and there was a major push during Charlie Kirk's Cultural Wars tour, which would be he was running the roads with with people like Rob Smith, right? And so they asked the question of what does gay sex have to do with winning the culture war? But even along that, they were kind of asking questions on Israel, Jews, and things like this, and why are they our greatest ally? I think that I'll continue here in a second. There's a point to this, but I think that kind of hardened Charlie Kirk's heart, because he kept getting inundated with these questions of Israel, and so he wanted to defend his position, as most people do in a debate. And so let's fast forward a few years, like 4 or 5, and then we have a showing on Patrick Bet-David's podcast of October 12th of 2023, like 5 days after October 7th, and Charlie Kirk's talking about Israel issued a stand-down order on October 7th. And so I think this was a turning point turning point for Charlie Kirk is where he started, okay, maybe there is something to this. I'm saying the growth wars hardened his heart, but at least opened him up to what is happening. So when it did happen, when this questioning did start happening, it was a very, very quick snowball effect into this. And so in November, right after that, he retweeted it, Elon, when Elon said, "You're speaking the actual truth." I think people maybe remember that tweet, talking about the nature of Jews. And then if we fast forward 2025, you have Megyn Kelly at a TPUSA event was kind of going on. I think this was more so in the realm of the Epstein files and the Israel and Jewish involvement with that, because Charlie Kirk had a very hard stance on pushing the release of the actual Epstein files. And then I would say the Turning Point USA focus group that's on YouTube that they pushed that out with the chapter heads across the states and colleges. Some of the chapters that they had, they brought some of the chapter heads in, had that discussion. It was very much Israel oriented and their thought process going into Israel, and that was very eye-opening for the younger generations, for Charlie Kirk, and how much involvement he had, or how much control you had with the guiding discussion of that. And then he went on with the Megyn Kelly show in August. And they both of them were kind of going pretty hard against Israel and Netanyahu and some of the Epstein stuff that was going on. And then you had Harrison Smith, which was pushing out the tweet that basically said Charlie Kirk is fearing for his life. And then we have the follow-on from there to what we saw on September 10th.
Real quick with that Harrison Smith tweet, just for context, that was about a month before his assassination. He was reporting what someone else had told him. So you're talking secondhand information.
August 13th. Yep.
But he said August 13th, so just exactly a month prior, hey, I heard from someone, so this is not him hearing directly from Charlie. It was Charlie fears that if he leaves the pro-Israel cause, that something will happen to him. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, so he was secondhand basically saying that somebody told me that Charlie Kirk was in fear for his life if he turned on Israel or started to question things. And it seems like that's exactly what was happening. And so beyond that, I mean, the day before you have the showing with Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro on his show, on the Charlie Kirk show, and they were kind of discussing things. And I think Charlie Kirk said something to the effect of, maybe they were talking about October 7th. I can't remember exactly, but it was a question about Israel, and Ben Shapiro's eyebrows basically went through the roof when he heard it. And so, I mean, even on top of that, we see some of the Josh Hammer tweets recently where he retweeted on the September 9th, the day before, he retweeted Trump's post from like 2013 on public executions. And then he posted his own tweet saying public executions almost 2 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot. So you have questions coming out like that, that things are coming to the forefront. Like I said earlier, we're not going to get new footage. We're not going to get new information, witness information. And so now we have to start looking back. We have to start looking back. Where did we start? Where did we come from? And how did we get here? And that's what we're going to have to piece together from now on. Because like I said, I don't think we're going to get much new anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, Joel, but I think when you pick allies, I feel like we try to pick ones that if something terrible would happen to us, they wouldn't kind of start looking at our allies and be like, did they do it?
Right.
Just practically speaking.
Yeah, you would think.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Zeb, you've been super helpful, and I know you've been putting out a lot of great material on this particular topic. So tell our listeners, where can they go to follow some of the material you've put out and some of the new stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, so we are live every weekday, most weekdays, unless I have something actually going on Outside the Overton on YouTube. We have a Clips channel on Twitter also, OTO Clips. And then I have my personal Twitter, which is Zeb Boykin. And beyond that, you can find any links to anything else that we're doing in the YouTube description on lives. And then I'm like we mentioned earlier, I think the respect aspect is probably going to be up in 2 days. I'm looking at a month on the respect aspect. So I think there's some things that need to be looked into that haven't really been dug into heavily. And one of those things is Erica Kirk and her involvement and her background. And so somebody is going to have to touch it. Right, and to some extent, like I mentioned in the ballistics video, I think there's some duty that I have or we have just across the board that it needs to be out there. And if they're not going to be transparent with what they're giving us, then like I said, we're going to have to look back and try to make sense of what we see today. And I guess the Erica Kirk video is going to be coming maybe not soon as you want it to, but it'll be here eventually.
Okay. Real quick, just as a teaser for that, Erica Kirk, her dad, what does he do? Or what has he done?
I don't know. Google him. Google him. You won't find anything. You won't find anything. I mean, I haven't put everything together yet. I have basically a pile of evidence that I need to sift through and organize. And so I'm going to start working on that. I don't have a completely coherent story that I need to push yet. And so it's going to take maybe a few days, maybe a week or so to put that together and then film that. Obviously, they came out the other day talking about they were going to start pushing for defamation lawsuits. And Andrew Colvett posted that they have really good lawyers. And I believe them. I believe they have really good lawyers.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely going to be a touchy subject, and I want to do it right without. I kind of want to remove emotion from it and just push what is evident, push the evidence that is there, and be as transparent as I can, because obviously they aren't.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today. Means a lot, and we'd be honored to have you come back on in the future, especially as more evidence. Well, we'll see. I mean, this may be all we get. I kind of have the feeling it's all we get. But if more evidence transpires, and is exposed, then we'd be happy to welcome you back on the show to break down some of that. But thanks for coming on. And we're going to go ahead now and go to our final commercial break, and then Wes and I will stick around and deal with some of the super chats. A lot of you guys have put in super chats. If you want to throw some in last minute, this is your final chance. We're going to our last commercial break and our third and final segment, and we'll deal with the super chats. Zeb, thanks again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
America is a country that was founded for the purpose of allowing Christians to do their duty before God, not to have their consciences ruled by the doctrines and commandments of men. Reece Fund exists in order to see the 10 Commandments properly applied, not just as a plaque on the wall, but to actually be used in business as though they're commandments from God that we're supposed to obey. Our goal is to find businesses and to buy them and to build them up. We want to find manufacturing businesses and use them to make sure that we can maintain our capacity to do things here. Reece Fund, Christian capital, boldly deployed.
Hey friends, Gray Toad Tallow is a family business making skin care the way that it should be, simple and clean. The company began as a personal mission to find healthier, more affordable solutions to common skin problems without the chemicals that are found in most products today. Now that search led to crafting balms from grass-fed, grass-finished animals that were naturally rich in vitamins and healthy fats, which is exactly what your skin craves. These balms fight dryness, they calm eczema and psoriasis, along with other stubborn skin issues, without containing all the nasty toxins. Gray Toad Tallow offers everyday soaps, balms, and beard balm for men. To experience some of their products, grab a balm sample pack. Each batch is made with care in their home and shipped directly to their customers. For skin care, the way that God designed, natural, clean, and effective, visit graytoadtallow.com. Use code RIGHT15 for 15% off your order today. Again, that's graytoadtallow.com. And if you want 15% off, then add the promo code RIGHT15 today. Yeah. All right, we're back. We're going to first deal with a question from Ninja5150. It's not a question, it's a statement. He said, all right, that's it. I'm done. You guys are wrong. If you guys are now pushing that Erica is a part of it, Erica Kirk, well, then I'm out. Goodbye. No, we're not pushing that. This is what we're doing. Okay, I want to make this abundantly clear. What we're doing is we are simply admitting that we do not have a viable suspect. We don't. It's just not, that has not been presented to us. We've got about as much of a ironclad, provable narrative for Tyler Robinson being the sole actor who assassinated Charlie Kirk as we do with the Epstein files, as we do with JFK files, as we do, here's the reality. One of the biggest people to blame in all this is Kash Patel. It is your Pam Bondis. It's your Kash Patels. It's the FBI. They have absolutely fumbled the ball. Absolutely fumbled the ball. And until they actually provide something that is substantial, that is reasonable, that's believable, that's compelling, with evidence, then basically what you're looking at is we don't know who actually killed Charlie Kirk. And we certainly don't know even close to who all was involved, right? Multiple different players. So with any crime, right? God forbid this would never happen, but God forbid if my wife murdered me, okay? And they're looking around and maybe initially they're like, oh, we think it might've been this neighbor who was going for a jog, around the time that, that Joel was found dead, and jogged past his house, and they bring them in, they interrogate them, they ask them questions, this and that and the other, but they can't prove anything. They don't have any serious evidence. Then eventually they have to let them go. And that neighbor never confesses. Tyler Robinson has not confessed. They eventually have to let him go, and the search continues. And if they can't come up with anyone, eventually one of the things that they end up doing when you're solving for a murder, when you're solving for a crime, is you speak to the family, you speak to the spouse, you speak to the staff, you speak to number of individuals, and you ask them interrogating questions. And yes, you want to be sensitive, you want to be respectful, especially when it's a spouse who's grieving the loss of a loved one. But if we had a compelling story with facts, okay. But if the story is Tyler Robinson, boyfriend of a gay furry, shot a literal cannon, but Charlie Kirk was a superhero with, Wolverine, metal inside of his neck that stopped the bullet. And then he broke the gun down on the roof in literally record time that no one's ever done.
An old wooden rifle that doesn't disassemble.
Yep. And then put it into his pants, but could still run perfectly where you couldn't even see this very large weapon, and then drop the weapon reassembled, right? So he had time to reassemble the weapon
in the woods
and drop it off in the woods, and then got away and told a bunch of people that he did it.
And then went to a shift at Dairy Queen.
And then went to shift at Dairy Queen. If that's all we're being given by our absolutely incompetent, and that's gracious, incompetent. I'm about this close to saying nefarious and wicked, okay? But I'll stick for now with our current absolutely incompetent FBI. If that's what they're presenting, then everything should be on the table. Question everyone. Question everyone. You need to be asking questions to everyone. Yes, you do it respectfully. And yes, people are innocent until proven guilty. But yes, these questions have to be asked because no answers have been presented. Questions have to be asked because no answers have been presented. So nowhere in this episode today, just to make that abundantly clear, did Zeb or me or Wes say, hey, we think, so-and-so did this. No, we're saying, hey, we think everyone needs to be questioned because apparently the FBI doesn't have a clue who did this. A random podcaster named Candace Owens has provided, I think, more compelling evidence thus far than the FBI. I don't like that. I wish that wasn't the case. I would like to be a part of a country that, the law enforcement was more competent than a random black woman behind a microphone in a podcast. I mean, that's my preference. That's a country I'd love to live in. I wish that country existed. It doesn't exist here. Not the country that we currently live in. So as long as those are the facts, as long as we live in the United States of incompetent America, then yes, you got to go back to the drawing board, blank canvas, and you question everyone. It's a crime scene. It's an open investigation, and we do not have a serious, viable suspect. Maybe Tyler Robinson is a patsy. Maybe, I don't know how, but maybe he's actually the shooter. But even in that instance, it seems very clear that at minimum, if he's the shooter, he had help. Mm-hmm. And more likely, he's not the shooter because the time doesn't add up for him to be able to do that and pull it off. So then who is involved? Who also is involved behind the scenes? And in that sense, I'm not saying you just question the wife or that you question her harshly, but you question everyone. You question his business partners. You question some of these donors. You question everyone. This meeting that they had with Seth Dillon and a bunch of other Zionist
up in the Hamptons.
Yeah, you question them. and you try to get to the bottom of who did this, how did they do this, and why. Because right now, we don't really have any of those answers. So that's what we're talking about.
What do we know more about?
We're not trying to blame anyone in particular. Go
Thomas Crooks, who nearly shot Trump in the head a year ago, or the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk. I feel like with both of them, we know zero. The most high-profile political assassinations, one an attempt, one successful, 20 to 25 years. No idea who they were, no idea where they came from, no idea if they were groomed by intel, what connections they had. We don't know anything about this guy, Thomas Crooks. And when it's coming to Charlie Kirk, we're a month out, and the trail is going cold. Like that's how these things work.
That's how it works. You have
cover
to
it
hop
up
on the trail before it goes cold. And even with Thomas Brooks, at least in that instance, there's a million questions still unanswered. But at least in that instance, you don't have the sheer audacity of the FBI telling us, like he was shot and killed, on the roof with a gun. Now, there's tons of questions of like, how in the world did he get on that roof with that gun when everyone's literally pointing and saying, he's on the roof, he's on the roof.
Why did his cell phone data visit FBI offices in Langley?
Yeah, so there's massive, many questions unanswered. But my point is, at least in that instance, people literally saw him get onto the roof. They saw him get onto the roof with a gun. He was shot on the roof, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's having to say, oh, he had superhuman speed and he did this and he did that. Like Flash Gordon, no. Like he died on the roof after allegedly firing the shot, which I think he did fire the shot, but who else is involved? At least that one, there's still a million unanswered questions about who else was involved and was he groomed and this, that, and the other. But at least it's compelling that that this individual very likely pulled the trigger.
Right.
In the case of Tyler Robinson, we don't even have that. We don't even have a compelling narrative that accounts for, in a credible way, Tyler Robinson actually being able to fire off the shot.
And this incompetence, I mean, think of the Las Vegas shooting. The current narrative now is this dude hauled thousands of pounds of machine gun and removed hurricane glass from like a 20-story building weighing something like 600 pounds, set up a machine gun, and rained down fire as one of the biggest mass shootings. We still don't know how he did that. That is still the official narrative. Yeah, he was able to get up there. He hauled all these weapons up in a hotel, unseen, removed hundreds of pounds worth of glass. There are so many different stories where it's like, well, how did that happen? This defies logic. You close your lying eyes and you believe. And we are done being told that. No, you, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, work for us. We, the people, demand answers. Why these people died, why this person was assassinated, why they supposedly maybe visited our intel community. What are you doing to us? Who is doing it? Why, when, and where? And if it's nefarious, who's going to be held accountable? So interviewing individuals and saying, this piece doesn't match up and this piece doesn't match up. And here's the deal. When people are innocent, guess what happens? They give their story and you go, yeah, that checks out. Like the president of France, his wife, there was a hit piece like, is this woman really a man? Well, sounds like she provided evidence in court. So when you're wrong, what happens is typically evidence comes out and people are vindicated. You have your day in court. We have that saying. What we're asking is every single angle, what about this? What about that? We're not claiming in this episode Israel did it for sure. But you need to investigate if Jewish donors were frustrated at Charlie Kirk and mad at him. Was there an involvement? That is perfectly valid, perfectly reasonable.
Yep. All right, Super Chats. You go ahead and start.
All right, we have a good one here. It's a two-parter from This Dude Rocks. He sent two $20 ones. Very kind. We really appreciate the donation. He asked this. Part one, what do we call pharmakia? As psychedelics are adopted, Christians must ask, are we banning substances? What biological basis bans them? Do some have zero medical use? Do some psychedelics have zero medical use? And did God create things that only have demonic human use? Second part of this question, he said, we need to know what in the brain we can't engage with. What substances in the brain can we not engage with? Banning psychedelics would mean anything that engages the serotonin 5-HT receptors. Christians must intellectually do this discussion. If we don't, the enemy will. Essentially, he's asking the question. So this is a word from the Bible, pharmakia, in the Greek. Paul uses it in
Witchcraft,
Galatians and Revelations. Well, it has a range. So pharmakon is the original word that it comes from. That can have a very benign usage in the idea of potions and drugs. So you're talking about substances that you take into your body. But a potion could be a healing potion. Hey,
Right.
you've got a cold. This can help clear your nose. But as we look at witchcraft, rituals, sorcery, we have to be honest that these often do involve some type of psychedelics. I think of the Indians. They would smoke psychedelic drugs, peyote, and commune with corn demons. And so wherever you see demonic activity, wherever you see witchcraft, we've got to be honest, these things often involve some level of mind-altering potion. And what you're really getting at here, what this dude Rox is asking, where does the body end and the brain begin? Because I think what Paul is getting across is he's saying, listen, it's not as though sorcery is fake. We've had this discussion on the show before. The reason witchcraft is bad, the reason witchcraft was banned in the Old Testament, the reason witchcraft should be banned today in a Christian nation is not because it's fake and it's lame and a LARP. No, because it's actually real. Because we're not just stuff. We're not just material. Every single individual human being has a real soul, a spiritual soul. And that spiritual soul, at a certain level, can interact with spiritual elements. For Christians, they're indwelt with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is not a material being. It is a spiritual being that indwells us when we're saved by Christ. However, our body, the soul within it, this soul can interact with, I think of demons during Jesus' ministry. And then to his point with psychedelics, you can take psychedelics and commune with, and we see what we see is not well, this person took this psychedelic and had a completely unique experience. And this person, and every person that's ever taken psychedelics has always seen totally different things. Now, if you get into the community, people actually see the same thing. They see the same types of beings. They have the same types of experiences. So when individuals take these substances, suppress the body, venture out spiritually, they're actually really dealing with real spiritual dimensions, real spiritual beings, and we are not equipped for it. The human is he's a natural man. Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 15. We're bodies first and foremost. In time, we will be given spiritual bodies, resurrected bodies, and we'll actually be able to navigate. We'll see God, who is invisible, a spiritual being. So the question is, you've got body and you've got soul, and these two are bound together. So it's not as though the body is a vessel and the soul is deposited in it. They're distinct. You have a real soul and a real body. Not identical, but they're also not totally separated. And where is it that we can take substances that affect the body to varying degrees, but as they begin to affect the soul, where does the Christian have to stop? To kind of give the ends of the spectrum, LSD. LSD, when you take enough of it, the body and the soul, to a degree, they're disconnected, and you see spiritual things. DMT, same thing. So let's put that way at the right side of the spectrum. And then let's take vitamin D, just straight up, helps you sleep better, helps you get some sunlight, whatever it would be. Purely affects the body, like literally affects the body. There's nothing spiritual about it. Purely affects the mind. And then let's kind of look at a gradient and realize, hey, there's some things, they're actually a little bit closer. I think of testosterone for a man. You as a man, you're not just a man physically, but a agender or androgynous soul. Your actual soul as well has maleness to it. You have a masculine soul. So testosterone, a real physical molecule, a deficit of that has an impact. You're going to act less manly. You're going to struggle with discipline. You'll be fatter. So it's not enough to just say, well, there's the body.
You'll be gayer.
You'll be gayer. Yeah. Here's all the things that affect the body. It has no impact on the soul. Here's the soul. Rather, it's a continuity. So to the question, can we take this? Can we take that? Are there certain receptors here and there that we can't take anything for that? I think of a lot of antidepressants. Like those affect the serotonin receptors. So your SSRIs, that stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So you have something that really affects real molecules, but also a lot of school shooters were on antidepressants. Drugs like MDMA, Molly, LSD, others, those affect serotonin. So here's what I would say, wrapping it all up. The body and the soul are connected. A healthy body is going to lead to a healthy soul. A sickly soul, I think of grief. Grief is a spiritual thing. Right. It has real physical impacts on your
bitterness.
body.
Like, I mean, David even says, like, when I had not confessed my sin, my bones wasted away. Or bitterness, the Proverbs, bitterness is rot in the bone. So like there can be spiritual realities that have physical effects, and there can be physical realities that have spiritual effects. Like sometimes, when I'm doing pastoral counseling, it's like somebody's just been struggling with depression, and we're going over, scripture verse after scripture verse, and we're applying it, with their marriage and with this relationship and this, emotion. And then, come to find out, like things aren't improving. Maybe there's some improvement, but there's, the problem is still largely there. And, finally, we are able to nail down, oh, well, I go to sleep at 3 a.m. I never exercise, and I eat, like a exclusive diet of seed oils. Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's why you're depressed. So yeah, we're not Gnostics,
no.
Right? We are spirit and body. It's not just the spiritual realm. It's also not just the physical realm, but both realities, and both of these realities parallel to one another and intersecting at points, and one affecting the other. So I'm with you. I think that was really insightful, Wes. That was a great answer.
And I would just end it by saying, so we look at an individual substance. I think of alcohol. Alcohol can have two effects. God made wine to gladden the hearts of man. So the same receptors in your body, in your brain, that you take a glass of wine on Friday night to the glory of God is a good thing.
Yep.
And that same wine, Proverbs also talks
alcohol,
very strongly
when
against.
righteously used, can make you happy.
Exactly.
And that's a biblical thing. The Bible commends that as a positive good.
Yep. But the point is, it's the same receptors.
Right.
So in the brain, I don't think we can say, to his question, this is off limits. This is off limits for any type of influence. But what we can say is this substance. Do we see some type of valid biblical use for it?
The teetotalers, they're ready to say it. They're ready to say, wait a second. You're saying that alcohol has a psychological effect, and we can just go ahead and finally get our wish and ban all alcohol.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're right. It's a sliding scale. And it just requires a lot of wisdom.
And I'm prepared to say there's some substances where you cannot make a definitive case for its valid use. So vitamin D, even up to alcohol, which can have some very damaging effects, your health, your relationship to God, all of that. But you still see valid use. Hey, this still makes me healthy. Like you as a Christian are not allowed to ingest minor amounts of cyanide to get yourself sick.
Yeah,
so it's destructive.
I'm doing it in moderation. Cyanide in moderation.
Yeah. No, you don't get to do that.
Don't get to do it.
It doesn't help you out. So I think it's not about what's in the brain literally being acted upon, but can I see this substance and say, and this is how it fits into a biblical category. These are the real beneficial effects that it'll have. And so I can justify it in use in these cases. And there are a number of molecules I do not think you can say this has a valid use. So if there's no valid
LSD
use that we can make a case
them.
for, exactly, mushrooms, DMT, you have to say, nope, these are not allowed. Some other ones, hey, this has a potential for misuse. CBD, certainly THC to a degree. But I understand there are receptors in the body that can help soothe pain. So on that one, hey, much more case by case. Alcohol, well, the Bible allows it. So those are the ones you allow. But then you say, hey, these, you're accessing spiritual dimensions. That is the biblical word for sorcery. You can't do that. There's no valid use. They're off the table. Christians can't have these. These, moderation, wisdom, sensibility, maybe.
Yep. Well said. All right. Granddad Farms is the next one. He gave us $5. We appreciate that. Thanks, Granddad Farms. He said, GA, good afternoon from Idaho, Kings. GA, it's nice to have you with us, Granddad Farms. You're a regular. We appreciate your support. It means a lot. Dapper Dan is the next one. He gave us $9.99. So $10 from Dapper Dan. Thank you. We appreciate that. He said, I see no reason to say that the left and Israel are mutually exclusive. True. When it comes to their likely culpability, either of Charlie's death or the death of our country. I completely agree. I think that, there's a lot of guys that I'm friends with, good Christian guys who, are a little bit more normie-centric than I am. And, and we all have the group chats and all those kinds of things. And a lot of them said, Joel, don't ruin this one for us because we've got the left on the ropes, and that's a huge problem. And we know that you agree, and I certainly do, that that the left, political left, is a massive problem. So whether it's the LGBT, LMNOP mafia, or whatever it may be, there's a lot of problems that stem from the left. And if you're getting kind of groundswell in your overall American populace against the left, like, hey, this is not just people's private choices in the privacy of their bedroom, but these are having cultural, societal effects, and we need to crack down. And some of these groups need to be labeled as terrorists. you that's some pretty good momentum. I get it. You don't want to lose that. And so I want to be clear as you know, with this episode, and if we do anything in the future, as we're asking some of these questions, it is not to take the pressure off the left whatsoever. Transgenderism is a plague on America. Absolutely. One way or the other. Period. End of discussion. And yet at the same time, we can also say that's a problem, but there are also certain individuals higher up, right? It's not just, you can't just treat symptoms like problematic symptoms in a nation. You also need to say, okay, so transgenderism, sure, but also like libs of TikTok and Elon Musk for that matter, commented on this, and I'm very glad. It's very helpful. They didn't just say, hey, you know what, certain individual transgender people who happen to go on a mass shooting spree or assassinate someone, that's a problem, and I stand against that. No, they said, no, we need to go deeper. How come everybody's turning out to be a gay furry? Right? We didn't have a bunch of gay furries in 1776. Why do we have this epidemic now? And so they're like, well, let's look at our media. Oh, Netflix.
Oh,
Not just one show. This show. And Libs of TikTok was just posting for like 72 hours straight. And Elon Musk was retweeting and a bunch of others, exact clips and scenes from like a dozen different children's shows. Some of these shows geared towards 2 and 3-year-olds on Netflix, proudly hosted, not just a one-off like, that one slipped by, like the Cuties show back in the day and people were banning Netflix and good on them. But this is like, oh no, there's a couple dozen shows geared towards toddlers. So my point is, that's good. So we can crack down on the left, we can crack down on transgenderism and all these different things. But then we can also say, who is peddling this? Who's promulgating it? Who's promoting this? And we can say, oh, this company. Okay. And who's making these decisions at this company? And who's the CEO of this company? Mm-hmm. And if you find, there's a dozen different companies that are massive and have had 80% of the influence in pushing this certain, cultural epidemic that's wicked and harmful in our country. And then out of those dozen, organizations, if you find that the people making the decisions higher up in those organizations, that 50% of them, 60% of them, 70% of them are Jewish, even though it's not Israel, it's not Israeli government, but American rich Jewish people who make up, Jews only make, I think, 2-3% of the entire world of America's population. It can't be that. Maybe about the same.
I think it's about the same.
It's about the same, 2 or 3. So if you determine that, right? If that's what's determined, you're cracking down on the left, on the Democrats. That's fine. It's never a bad day to pick on the Democrats. So if you're cracking down on the Democrats, and transgenderism is bad, that's great. And I think you can do both. I agree with the sentiment. You can crack down on the Democrats and transgenderism, and you can also say, hey, let's pull back the curtain. Who's behind this? Right. Oh, this corporation, this. Okay. And who are the individuals who made these decisions? Okay, this person. Okay. Are there any patterns with these kinds of individuals? Okay. They're all Democrats. All right. Are there any other characteristics? 60% of them are one particular ethnicity, but that ethnicity only accounts for 2% of our entire nation's population. Hey, what does that mean? Something? Is there something to be said about that? Should we bring this to the public's attention? Should we be aware of this? You can do both.
Yeah, everyone in 2020, when at the height of wokeness, they knew white male CEO. Right, they're overrepresented. White men are only this proportion in the United States, but they make up. Everybody knows, hey, there's a group here, and they are way misrepresented, be it in a good way or be it in a bad way. So saying, hey, we have to notice this is the case. This is what it is. None of that is nefarious. You're literally just saying statistically, this is not how it falls. And I know everybody knows how to do that because just 4 years ago it was white men this, white men that,
That's right.
white people this, white
point.
churches this. You all know how to do it. You seem to think it's actually bad when these people are overrepresented. So now we're turning around and saying, hey, these things are objectively bad, and these people are represented.
Yep. Well said. Julian Stevenson, you want to read that one?
All right, $5 from Julian, much appreciated. Look up Show Your Faith by Works, LLC. It's a foreign lobbying group aimed to geolocate Christians during Sunday worship to target them with Israel ads. This
is true.
This is bonkers. So
crazy.
You can do something called geofencing. Think of your phone. All right, so your phone.
Think of Pokemon. Right? Was it like Pokemon Go?
Oh, Pokemon Go.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
That was before my time. Wasn't my thing. But think of your phone. You have tons of data. You have location data. Think about it. Facebook. Like if you have the Facebook app, that thing is pulling your location information. So that app has tons of data. And you know these companies get rich? They sell that data. If you could figure out, for example, what time people shop the most. When in a woman's pregnancy, she buys kids' clothes. There was a time, it was about 5 years ago. So think how far it's come since then. Target, just from a woman's shopping, it was actually a young girl, a daughter, just from her shopping patterns, figured out she was pregnant and was sending her maternity stuff. The dad was furious. He's like, what in the world? You're sending her this? She's not even pregnant? She had to be like, Dad, I kind of am. So huge companies, your Facebooks, your Targets, everything like that, they're using massive amounts of data to pinpoint you, to show you the ads that you want to have, to sell, to get money off of you. So when it comes to geofencing, there are ways to buy data of people that have been within a certain region. So in this case, a church. So if you have a church of 3,000 people, you can buy the data to see the individual device signatures that go to that church and then come back out. And using that, target those people for ads. So in this case, Show Your Faith by Works, LLC, foreign lobbying agent, had been tracking data, I think it was from 30 different churches in 3 different states, and using that data to specifically target the people that attended those churches with pro-Israel ads as a form of propaganda.
It's honestly, hats off.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah, and it's not illegal. Like, it's not illegal to buy data. It's not illegal. You agreed to it.
It's another thing that we should be aware of.
Yep.
As Protestant Christians, you should be aware that Israel thinks you're suckers.
Yeah.
They do. They think you're suckers, and you are being targeted with propaganda all the time. So you should just be aware of that.
Right.
From Israel's standpoint, in our sacred capitalism, bravo. Quite the move. Fantastic strategy.
Yeah,
but
forget the billboard that hits everyone. We want Greg Locke's church attendees.
Yeah.
We need to make sure you are towing the line.
Right. They're like, let's put trackers on everybody who attends John Hagee's church.
They're like, this is our core. We can't lose them.
Right.
We need to hit them every week.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. It's not illegal to do so. From their side of the aisle, I can certainly see why it would be advantageous. Hats off. But from our side of the aisle, and everybody listening to this show, if you are a Protestant Christian, you need to beware. Be aware. And for those of you who have loved ones, so maybe you're, a little bit more red-pilled on the topic, but you know that you have your dispensational mom and dad, an aunt and uncle, and you know that they are being preyed upon, P-R-E-Y. They're being preyed upon by a number of corporations, to be fair.
Sure.
Right. But
Trump's campaign actually
is
succeeded in 2016. This was the big thing they did. Hyper-targeted ads. So it's like local Catholic moms for Trump in Iowa. So this has been going on for a while.
Yes.
But here we're pointing out, this is literally a foreign country, registered foreign lobbying agency to churches, Christian churches.
In America.
We want to show you these ads. That's pretty Orwellian.
It's another level, and we want to make sure that our listeners are informed. So thank you, Julian Stevenson, for bringing that up. You're absolutely right. I'm glad we got to address it. We got $5 from Boy Anderson. Boy Anderson, thank you so much. We also got $5 from Mostly Peaceful Merch. He's a regular. We appreciate you greatly. Thank you, Mostly Peaceful Merch. And then we also got $50. Very generous. Thank you so much. This is from Cameron Stevenson. Cameron's a great guy. He follows us regularly. Cameron, thank you for your generosity. Appreciate it a lot. Cameron says, shout out to Wes, the sensible moderate.
So true.
So true. Well, not entirely. I'd like to think I like to think of you as center right, because if you're a moderate, dead center,
and
then I'm a lib,
right,
and I can't have that, right? Because if you're exactly center,
right,
then I'm a lib. So I think Wes is center right. I'm a perfect centrist. All right, so all that's now been covered. Here we go. So he says, thanks for the info on Top Guys. Ooh, I'm not supposed to be talking about it. I'm talking. Hey, it's a super chat. He said it, Cameron. This is not me. This is Cameron. His words. And he's allowed to speak, freedom of speech. All right. So he says, thank you, Wes, for the info on your top guys and for your help with the job search, brother. You personally reached out and helped him?
Yes. Yep.
That's very kind. We do that for our top guys.
Yeah.
Just saying, if you're not a top guy, I don't even know what you're doing. I do know what you're doing. You're going to be jobless. Your family's going to starve. That's what's. You better become a top guy.
And especially if you're looking to move to the area. Like, this is a great place to live in.
Some of these guys are moving here. Fantastic.
Yep.
Georgetown.
So that's just in general. That's not a top
Georgetown is a fantastic
in general,
place.
moving here. If you have a skill, hey, would this apply?
Yeah, reach out. I get people who email me
referring?
all the time, and I can't respond to all of them. But I'll be honest. You want a response? All you have to do is say in the headline of the email, prayerfully considering moving to Georgetown to be a part of your church. That person gets a phone call.
Yep.
Right? That's how it works. Okay, so he said, thanks for giving me info to join the top guys. Thanks for your help with the job search. If I don't find a job soon, I'll just apply for a position with ICE. Doing the Lord's work. God bless him.
I wish they had a location. I think it's Dallas and San Antonio.
I wish
They're
there was one in
basically
Austin.
at.
Yeah.
But San Antonio, like,
Close enough. Hour
close
and a half.
enough. There's people that
2
commute.
hours. Yeah,
Like,
we
there's people
literally
that do
have like 2 or 3 families. This is insane. 2 or 3 families, and they drive. One of them drives 2.5 hours one way, so 5-hour round trip to our church. Another one is like an hour and 45 minutes. So it can't be done. I wouldn't want to do it.
You could also
They do
live.
it.
They live way out west of San Antonio. You could live north San Antonio.
That's right.
Commute south to ICE for work.
Yep.
Do the Lord's work. Commute
And
north.
then have like maybe an hour, 20
You
minute
could probably
drive
get
or
it to
something
like probably about an hour, maybe 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Out to us.
to church.
Not unthinkable.
Not unthinkable. Could you imagine what a life? You get
know.
to sit underneath far right extremist preaching from Joel Webben on Sunday, and then go round up illegals Monday through Friday,
Monday through Saturday, probably.
Monday through Saturday.
God bless.
What a life. God bless. All right. Kodiak Joe, $10 from him. Thank you, Kodiak. We really appreciate it. He says, so with receipts now being shown and battle lines being drawn, will we see the tour?
True.
T-U-R-E.
True.
True.
right.
Oh, okay. All right. Just typo. The true right go full mask off and say enough is enough? Or will Americans never stand up and hold the line? That's a great question.
Americans will stand up. If
They
you
will.
read Alexis de Tocqueville, this is a French guy who came over in the 1800s. He was amazed. He's commenting like, all the other sailors, it's stormy, the weather's bad, it's night.
Yeah.
He's like, they don't go out. The Americans, they have more wrecks than anyone else. They're fearless. I think within the American soul, individuals have souls.
It's in our spirit.
There's a family, the way you could speak of the family having a soul with traditionism. And there's a national soul, the spirit, the vitality of a people.
Real quick, that soul does not belong to all Americans.
Sure.
That belongs to heritage
Paperwork
Americans.
Americans do not get the American soul.
Yeah. So there's that. I am an American. That person does not have the spirit that you were describing right now. But for those who are heritage Americans, all 17 of us who are left. No, we've got 330
There's
million
literally
in the country.
7,000 of us.
330
We're in a
million
cave.
people in the country, and I would say close to 200 million.
Yeah, that's fair
Around
enough.
there. Yep.
But that American spirit, I don't think we'll take it forever. The
Did I
British,
say 200,000? I meant
no,
200 million.
200 million. Yep.
Yeah, 200 million.
I don't think the American spirit will take it forever.
I think you're
I
right.
do not know the framework that it will take. Political, this, that, or the other. Will there be a civil war? It's just literally impossible. I think things are going to accelerate. See
Yes.
our fourth turning episode, and something's going to come out of that. But as far as will the American people look like Britain, just straight up replaced, never even lifting a finger? By God's grace, I don't think that's true of us as Americans. Now, that American spirit, for the record, gets us in trouble. We
Yeah,
do not
it
like
does.
authority. Like, there's
Yeah.
going to come a point,
There's negatives to that.
maybe 500 years in, we got to say, look,
Because that's part of
You
how
guys
we
are
got here. Is
anti-authority
like, there's no
to too
sovereign
great a
here.
degree.
There's no authority here. We don't submit to anyone here. It's not like, honestly, okay, I'll get in trouble for this, but it is not a surprise that Americans are all about democracy, right? Libertarian, democracy, our sacred democracy. We're individuals, individualism, all these kinds of things. And then you think, all right, what is? I mean, there's a million different denominations, but you think like, what's the biggest? Baptist. Is there a reason for that? Local autonomy of every single Baptist church. And I'm saying this as a Baptist. Local autonomy of each individual church, right? Yes, you have, the once a year convention or something like that, but the convention, the denomination itself, whether it be SBC or otherwise, has no formal authority over a local church. So the local church is completely autonomous and independent. And within those local churches, what is their church polity? Congregationalism. The congregation gets to vote. You can look at that and say, wow, isn't this amazing? We found the timeless church polity principles of the Bible. Or you can say, oh, isn't it fascinating that in this particular nation, America, in this particular time period, the height of liberalism, that Christians in that milieu determined that the ecclesiastical polity of the Bible was democratic and egalitarian. And also individualism.
There's a lot of historians that have said
severed, separated. And I'll be honest, as a Baptist, I'm looking at that and I'm like, Anglicanism is starting to look pretty dang good right now.
There's a lot of historians that have said exactly that in America, there's a very anti-hierarchical, anti-bishop type of ethos. It's not present in Britain. It's not present in Germany. Those had much more structured, be it a diocese, be it a presbytery, Northern Presbyterians. In America, Baptist and Methodist, by far, those are the biggest ones that settled the nation the first 200 years. And
the polity being very similar. And so that's not a coincidence. I do need to go ahead and add a caveat. I said Anglicanism is not looking too bad if it weren't for all the gay Anglicans. That's the problem is some of these older, the church in England just appointed a woman as a very high up Archbishop of what? Canterbury?
Canterbury, a very high role.
Yeah, very high role. So some of these guys, we're the true historic church and we have, true hierarchy and biblical principles and blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, then I need you to stop being so gay, right? Because at a certain point, the fruit is in the pudding, right? You'll know them by their fruits. It'd be a lot more compelling if, because the Baptists, say what you will, they love them some Israel, my goodness. But on moral, cultural issues, the SBC is one of the most conservative denominations that there is on the planet right now. And so I do think that there are problems, with the historicity and with some of the polity and these kinds of things. But that's part of the reason why I've remained a Baptist as long as I have, because right now, I get guys reaching out to me all the time. This is all freebie stuff that I'm throwing out. But one of the most common things that I get people who reach out, they'll say, do you know a church in this area? That's number one. Number two is pastors reaching out or lay elders or deacons, churchmen, officers of local churches saying, we really don't want to be independent. We don't want to be rebellious. We don't want to do our own thing. We want to join a network. We want to join a denomination. We want to join, something beyond just our local church. How good and pleasing it is when brothers dwell in unity with one another. Can you recommend one? And my answer is always absolutely not. Not a single one. Well, what about the conservative Lutherans, LCMS? Do you believe that R.L. Dabney, that he was a heretic and in hell? No. Then don't join the LCMS. You'll be excommunicated. What about the PCA? You mean the PCA with hundreds of female leaders that have just been exposed? You'll be excommunicated. What about the OPC? They're based. You'll be excommunicated. What about the CREC? You will be excommunicated. You will. Now is not the time. It's
literally
sad.
Yesterday it went viral. A man was kicked out of his church for tweeting a picture in his local Frisco, Texas neighborhood of an Indian religious celebration. He said, hey, I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. And Matt Boswell, the singer of a very famous worship song, His Mercy is More, his church, where he is the lead pastor of, disciplined that man out of their church
kicked him out
for tweeting that. Yep. Oh, that's hyperbolic. They would never. My brother in Christ, literally, this is happening on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Good men are being kicked
I remember
out
I
of their
tweeted out
church.
a while ago. I said, now granted, I was using hyperbole, but I said 99%. If you're a young white Christian man on the right, politically and culturally with right-wing views, and you're excommunicated, 99% of the time, it's because you're right-wing. It's extra biblical. It's not a biblical case. Now, I wouldn't say it's 99% of the time. I was using hyperbole.
It's like 98.
But there are cases where it's like, okay, he's an adulterer, or there's this or that, some kind of form of impenitent sin, or but the point still stands that there's an epidemic right now right? So I don't know what the exact percentage is. There is, meaningful, legitimate church discipline practiced by, I don't know, maybe 3 churches left in America. But, there are some cases where churches are excommunicating rightly. But the point is, there are many, many, many cases where they're not. And so if that's happening with the local church, so think about, it's the same principle, just applied at a higher degree. If an individual is right now nervous to join a church because they're worried that they'll be put under church discipline and excommunicated, and there'll be a public record of that that will follow them the rest of their life. It'll make their church life very difficult in whatever future church they go to. And if young men right now on the right wing are nervous to join an individual church because they think they might be excommunicated for holding basic views that your great-grandfather probably held, that the average American, Christian or otherwise, held even just 80 years ago, and you're nervous that will be cited as top-tier theological triage, that will be cited as heresy, and you will be put under church discipline and excommunicated, and it's permanently now on your record, scarlet letter E for excommunicated, following you the rest of your life. Just apply that now. If you're a pastor or a church leader listening to me right now, apply that to your church joining a denomination. And I would say that the chances are just as high, if not higher, of the denomination disassociating, formally kicking you out. So my point is, the principle of local churches not being in pure isolation, purely autonomous, purely independent, on their own, that's not a good thing. That idea that it's not a good thing, I support 100%, and I long and look forward and pray towards the day that I would be able to. Right now, informally, we have a relationship with many different ministers and churches. I long for, though, and pray for the day where I can be in formal fellowship, and our local church can be in formal fellowship with many, many other Christ-exalting, Bible-preaching churches. I long for that day. That day is not today. It's not. It would be a liability. So right now, the Baptist polity is one of the only things, right, that independent spirit is one of the only things keeping a lot of faithful ministers in the game, making them bulletproof, making them invulnerable. And so right now it's tough. I'm like torn. I see on one hand, our problems in some sense stem from there's no sovereign here. Every man for himself. You're the king of your own castle. It's a rebellious American spirit. On the flip side, though, all this goes back to what you were saying, Wes. The strength of that also is it's really hard to get all of America to agree to just do what you want.
Lay down and take it.
Lay down and take it. Exactly.
And they did during COVID, to be fair.
Good Lord.
But what happened a year in? Tons of states could not enforce because people were literally patriots opening up their businesses.
That's right.
In New Jersey, Ian Smith, I remember they closed his gym, just straight up kicked down the plywood wood barrier that the state had put up and said, I'm opening this. A free man lives here. We're not going to take it anymore. Yep. So even in America, we did lay down and take it, but not for long and not forever.
All right, let's do the last ones quickly. You go ahead.
All right, this dude Rock sent $10. He said, thanks for the answer, Wes. This is regarding the psychedelics. Followed it up. Do you think any medical findings on these substances that show medical benefits are not quite accurate, or just that the practice is not justified because of the positives? And so what he's referring here to is probably different forms of psychedelic-assisted therapy. So you have MAPS, for instance, MDMA-assisted psychotherapy being studied in veterans, people with PTSD. You also have microdosing, so people take very minor doses of LSD. It's been shown to help with depression, just feeling better throughout the day. And so he's kind of asking, so I understand what you're saying, like these things we can't just use them for sorcery, we can't just use them to access the spirit realm. We're Christians, gosh darn it. But do they really have these medical benefits? In my experience, I wanted to go to college to study the effect of some of these substances, their use, how they affect the brain, all of that. What I've noticed has happened, and other guys have said the same thing, they're like a biohacker, like Ben Greenfield. They'll do that. So they're like, all right, I'm going to microdose LSD, or I'm going to take this psychedelic or small amounts of shrooms. And always what happens, not necessarily short term. Short term, I do think the benefits are real. I think if you did small amounts of LSD every day, colors were brighter, birds were chirping, music felt amazing. Yeah, probably for about 4 weeks, you'd say, hey, I don't feel depressed anymore. But what always seems to happen long term is they said the consequences, the bite, is worse than the bark. I remember reading a story about a guy, he would be like, I thought I could smoke weed and love Jesus. And he's like, I would smoke weed and then I thought I was doing worship. He said, but what always happened was actually just became smoking weed. So I think there are real benefits. They're short term. And long term, the use of spiritual substances, the use of destructive substances like weed will always choke out the positive benefits. So sure, short term, yes, you're probably going to be more chill and enjoy food more if you smoke weed. Well, I feel great. Yeah, you're not going to feel great tomorrow though, or you're not going to feel great in a month from now. I think the benefits are overwrought. We have a lot of great things to help fix depression, anxiety. It's called a barbell, it's called sunlight, and it's called eating right.
Well said. All right, last one. Go ahead and do it.
Ooh,
N.T. Dungan Semper Reformanda.
Nailed it. $2. Thank you so much. He said Grace Community Church Sun Valley on the FAR list, the foreign agent registration list that I referenced earlier in regards to geofencing. He's saying Grace Community Church, John MacArthur's church that he pastored, was one of those that was being geofenced. Completely true and makes complete sense.
It does. One of these days, same kind of thing with Charlie Kirk, right? You want to be sensitive. John MacArthur did a lot of good. I honor him. I respect him, and he has passed away still very recently. Mm-hmm. I think of him. I think of Odie Bauckham. I think of Charlie Kirk. All three of them, all around the same time that they passed away. And so, want to be sensitive with that. But it is worth eventually noting that that John MacArthur did receive a letter. I have a screenshot of it. That from Netanyahu directly,
The big man.
Yep, thanking him for his teaching and his influence on America in a positive Israel direction, and a lot of these things. I think that's wrong. I'll come out and say it. I can't be hypocritical and try to play both sides of the field. I think it's wrong. I can be sympathetic though and say that John MacArthur was one of the very best. But it's like being, I think of, Bilbo, one of his uncles. He was so tall, right? He's a hobbit. He was so tall, he could ride a real horse instead of a pony. It's like, okay, so like this guy's a giant. No, he's really tall, but he's tall for a hobbit, right? John MacArthur, at the end of the day, he's not a hobbit, but he was a boomer. And the best of boomers, not saying in everything in general, but on the issue of Israel, is still pretty Zionistic. Right. And so the fact that John MacArthur's church is on the FAR list is not surprising. The fact that they were given a letter from the Israel government and Netanyahu thanking John MacArthur for his service in turning hearts and people, using his influence to turn the affections of Protestant Christians in America toward Israel is not surprising. And have those things, are those ultimately, do they have negative effects? Yes, pretty massive. And yet at the same time, we have to, I don't really like nuance, but there are a few times where you need it. You can't just be cookie cutter black and white. So you can't just look at that and say, John MacArthur, because of his teaching and his doctrine as a leaky dispensationalist and his influence, he caused a lot of Protestants in America to be fond of Israel. And their fondness of Israel is part of the reason why Israel has the stranglehold on America in our politics, in our culture that it currently has. And therefore, John MacArthur never did anything good, and he's a bad guy. I won't say that.
John MacArthur did a great job. He was on Ben Shapiro, and he told him to his face, you need Christ. The Old Testament is talking about Jesus, and he deserves to be commended for it.
Yep, exactly. So it's just not that simple. Oh, is this guy a bad guy or is this guy a good guy? And I have noticed that, like Nick Fuentes even says, there's low IQ anti-Semitism and then there's high IQ for some of the, and I think it's funny and I think it's actually helpful, categories. For the low IQ anti-Semites out there, J-pilled, I don't think it's actually anti-Semitism, but for the low IQ guys who are critical of Israel, I do think that sometimes there's a tendency to do this with individuals, you have two buckets, Jew and faithful.
Right.
And it's like, this guy taught one thing wrong at one time ever. Jew, Judeo-Christian, not a real Christian. And you just kind of toss them over. And I think that it's not that simple. You can look at someone and say, I think he had wrong views. Okay. Why? Is he a product of his time and place? Right? Is he a product of the fact that of all the the boomers were the most propagandized generation in arguably world history, the history of humanity.
They never stood a chance, to be honest.
Yeah, they never stood a chance. So can you look at that and say, but yet he still truly loved the Word of God, taught 95% of it faithfully. Under his preaching, the Lord was pleased to save millions of souls. And so the headline is, good guy, faithful man, praise God. But then the footnote, and you can say the footnote without erasing the headline. The headline, John MacArthur, good man. A footnote, yes, John MacArthur garnered a lot of Protestant affection for Israel, to which Bibi Netanyahu, who I believe is a war criminal, thanked him personally. I can't chalk that up as a W. That's
right,
an
the
L.
guy who hates Christ. Like,
Guy who
literally
hates Christ and is
not the Messiah.
genociding Gaza,
Right.
writes to you and says, hey, love your work.
Keep it up out there.
Not great.
Right.
Not great. So that is an L. That is an L. But that does not mean that a man's entire ministry was a loss. I think that John MacArthur has done a lot of good. So anyways, the fact that, we only brought it up because of this super chat, the fact that Grace Community Church, John MacArthur's church in Sun Valley, California, is on the FAR list, that is true, and that should come as no surprise. All right, that's the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you've been blessed by it. It is Wednesday, and we broadcast live 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. Central Time, and we broadcast live simultaneously on both X and on YouTube. All of these live streams will be uploaded shortly. Just within an hour or two of finishing the broadcast, they are uploaded on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, etc. They're uploaded on our website, rightresponseministries.com. They're uploaded on our app, the Right Response app. You can go to your favorite app store and search Right Response Ministries and download our free app. And so you'll be able to find all of these live broadcasts on all those platforms. But if you want to catch it live, you want to engage in the chat, send a super chat, have your comment or question read on the air in the episode, then you got to catch it live. And we only live stream. The actual live broadcast is only on X and YouTube. So make sure that you subscribe to Right Response Ministries on YouTube and click the bell so that you'll be notified with all our new content when we're actually broadcasting. And then also, if you haven't already, make sure to follow us on X. We do the whole live stream, the whole video right there on X as well. The handle for X is at Right Response M. M as in ministries, at Right Response M. Thanks for tuning in, and Lord willing, we will see you with our next broadcast, our next live stream, which will be Friday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Later.